What's going on, people, and welcome back to the channel. So I'm going to do a quick match reaction to the game. It's just finished. Midtjylland 3, Celtic 1 in the Europa League tonight in Denmark. Celtic losing 3-1 to the Danish side. The Martin O'Neill effect is over. I didn't watch the game, but I've seen the highlights and the goals and everything. Not surprising. I knew we weren't going to win tonight. Midtjylland are an excellent side. They're probably the best side in the Europa League at the moment. Very good team. Celtic, shocking in the first half. They started the game quite well from the highlights that I've seen, and then Midtjylland scored 3 goals in 8 minutes to take the game away from the Scottish side. It's very disappointing. But I'm not going to blame Martin O'Neill and Sean Maloney because we haven't got the quality. We haven't got the quality for even the Europa League because of we know the real problem is, and that's the people who run the club. Not recruiting well enough. We're so weak physically. Every European team we play, we have no physicality about us. It's ridiculous. Really is poor. It really is. Anthony Ralston, he was the worst player from the highlights I've seen. Absolutely dreadful. I thought Tierney was absolutely awful as well. He hasn't got it anymore. As far as I'm concerned, that's a mistake, bringing him back. He's fucking awful now, Tierney. He really is. He can't fucking defend to save his life. Injuries have killed him. And Ralston, he's just not good enough for Celtic. He gives 100%, but that second goal and the first goal from the highlights I've seen were fucking pathetic from Ralston. They were his fault, predominantly. It really was poor. It really was disappointing. Midtjylland started, the game very dangerous. Celtic had a chance in the first 2 seconds, and that was Arnie Engels, but that was basically it for Celtic in the first half, really. Really was poor. Midtjylland, they were building up a head of steam. That striker they've got, really good player from the highlights I've seen, who got the 3rd goal, very good player. They have a few other good players as well. Kevin Mbabu, very experienced at the back. Very, very good side. The way they play is very good. And the goal was coming. Celtic, Schmeichel made a good save at the back post, which bailed Ralston out from the highlights that I've seen. What Ralston was doing, I have absolutely no idea. I don't think Anthony Ralston knows what he's doing half the time. Really is poor ball watching. And Schmeichel made a good save. Really was poor from Ralston. Schmeichel also made a really good save from the edge of the box. The guy on the edge of the box hit it, and he tipped it wide. That was an even better save, I think. But Midtjylland, their control of the game eventually brought them the opening goal. It was very poor from Ralston. Ralston doesn't cut the cross out. Really is disappointing. Back post, and the guy just wins it. The guy wins the header, headers it down into the net. 1-0 to Midtjylland. Fully deserved. They were the better team and the better team throughout the whole of this game. Celtic had a mountain to climb at this point. Really was poor from Celtic, to be honest. And then what does Celtic do? Straight away from kick-off, what on earth is Ralston and Engels doing? The guy gets the ball on the wing and literally roasts both of them, goes in the middle of both of them, and curls a beautiful shot into the far corner past Schmeichel. Absolutely diabolical defending from Celtic. Really was embarrassing. It was just terrible. It really was. Ralston's not good enough, as I said. He should have done so much better with that. He literally just stood off the guy and let the guy cut inside. Engels as well went back into his shell. We have this from Arnie Engels. He's a very good player, but on his day, but he just doesn't show it often enough. But yeah, that was poor. Literally beaten both of them so easily by the Midtjylland winger. He hit a shot into the far corner. Really was disappointing. And that was the game there and then, in my opinion. Midtjylland got a 3rd goal. And from their striker. What on earth again are we doing defensively? Really is poor. Edge of the box. The guy has so much space to bend one into the far corner. It's a really good finish from the guy, to be fair. 3-0 to Midtjylland. That was the game there and then. In the second half, Midtjylland took pity on Celtic, I think. Midtjylland could have easily scored a few more. Schmeichel made a good save at the back post. We headed a few things away. I thought Austin Trust, even though he conceded 3 goals, I thought he was man of the match again. I thought he was really good with some of the clearances. Scales looked really ropey at times. The way we passed the ball was so poor as well, from the highlights I've seen. Tanetki as well. Tanetki, at least he tries. He tried in the first half. Forrest is not good enough as well to start. He was terrible. Him and Ralston at one point on that side is just embarrassing. Both not good enough for Celtic anymore, or never have been. Ralston's never been good enough for us. And Forrest is just too old now. But it's not their fault. The recruitment is absolutely diabolical at this club. We all know that. Celtic did get a penalty. it was Callum Osman who came on. I'll get on to Callum Osman because there is some more not so positive news about Callum Osman. Callum Osman came on. I thought he made a real difference from the highlights I've seen. He wins a penalty. He done really well. He gets in front of the defender. The defender brings him down as a penalty. Hatate came on. Hatate scored the penalty. Maida then had a chance where he tried to roll it to Balagrisha. Balagrisha again, I don't think he's going to work out. I'm sorry, he's been so poor. Balagrisha, I know he wasn't on for very long tonight, but very disappointed with Balagrisha yet again. I think that's a disaster of a signing, to be honest. Callum Osman then got injured, hamstring. So he's going to be out for 6 weeks. Takes the piss. It really does. It really is annoying. Iheanacho injured. We're going to have to rely on Johnny Kenny, who I thought got no service tonight from the highlights that I've seen, and Shin Yamada. Because I don't know when Iheanacho is going to be back. I don't know what the future is going to hold for Iheanacho at Celtic after Brendan Rodgers' departure. But yeah, so we've lost Osman for God knows how long. It's a shame because Osman's looked promising in the 3 games that he's played. It was his European debut tonight. He scored against Rangers at the weekend. He got a penalty tonight in his first European game. And then he gets injured. Very disappointing for him. I hope he gets back to playing soon. I don't want this to be the end for Callum Osman. I don't want him to be like one of those players who, like Marky Johnson, he looked promising but never got back to the potential that he had before he had all those injuries and stuff. I think Callum Osman's a better player than Marky Johnson by far. I think he's got something to offer. But yeah, very disappointing. Disappointing for Callum Osman going off. That was a real blow because Celtic had nothing up front at this point. But in the end, it was too much. Martin O'Neill, his first defeat since coming back on an interim basis. We weren't going to win tonight. I knew we weren't going to win. Midtjylland are a very good side. They're top of the Europa League table for a reason. Very good team. They're physically better than us. They're stronger than us. They're quicker than us. That's our problem. We with the recruitment, we don't get players in who are strong on the ball. We have good technical players, but they had no physicality about them. And the quality. Midtjylland have quality. We don't. We have players who have moments like Tanetki, Engels on the occasion. Like against Leipzig last year. Trusty against Atlanta. Players like that. We do have moments, but collectively, Midtjylland are just better than us. They're ran better than us. Midtjylland are a team we should be competing a lot better against, and with all due respect to them. You look at Copenhagen, you look at Bodo Glimt, you look at Club Brugge, look at all their models compared to ours. In terms of European competition, it's absolutely outrageous how Celtic's board just sit there on their arse and don't give a toss about Europe. It's real fucking negative on this club, and that's why everyone's so sick of these people, and they want them to go. I don't buy all this bollocks that we have to buy cheap to sell on, compete in Europe. I think that's absolutely disgraceful. I think the boards are fully responsible for everything that's happened in Europe over the last 20 years, with the mistakes, the players and the managers of those teams in the qualifying and in European campaigns have to take responsibility, but the players and recruitment is down to the boards. They're the people who choose not to invest correctly. But Celtic lost 3-1 to Midtjylland tonight. We've got Kilmarnock on Sunday. I don't know if it'll be Martin O'Neill's last game. Hopefully it is. With all due respect to Martin O'Neill, I've got all the respect in the world for him, but we need to get a new manager in. We've got to try and get back into the title race against Hearts. Obviously, Callum Osman getting injured doesn't help our cause whatsoever. And with his hamstring, Carter Vickers being out, Johnson being out, as well Jota being out, we're threadbare with players. We got to hope that Johnny Kenny and Shin Yamada, they don't get injured. Then we're in a really, really, really bad situation. Worse than we are now. But yeah, Kilmarnock on Sunday. It'll be an interesting game against Kilmarnock. Will it be Martin O'Neill's last game? We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, we need to get a new manager in. We got an international break coming up after the weekend. It'll be perfect for the board to go and get a manager in. Will they? Probably, I don't know. I don't know what. I think they all need to fucking go as far as I'm concerned. They shouldn't even get the opportunity to get a new manager in, as far as I'm concerned. We should be getting rid of that. Some of them should be packing their bags and going, because you could blame it all on Rodgers as much as you want. Yeah, he made mistakes. Yeah, he lost the dressing room. Yeah, he was a problem at the club. But the real people who are the real problem, long-lasting problem with this club is these people at the top of the club. Desmond, Lorwell, Nicholson, Mackay, Brown. Allison, they're all the major problem when it comes to Europe and in Celtic in general. You know, they're destroying their downsides in every year. They're basically trying to do it on the cheap, and it's just pathetic. And yeah, that's my take on it. You know, well done to Midtjylland. Very good side. I fancy them to go on and win it. They're such a good side. Yeah, and that's my reaction. I'm back with a reaction to the Kilmarnock game on Sunday. Thanks for watching. Take care. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.